Hey C4 listeners, it's Chris here, and you might be wondering, where's the music? Why is it just Chris talking? Is this a soft open? Well, it's none of the above. Well, I guess it's kind of a soft open, but we've talked about this on past episodes, how Anna and I wanted to share publicly a glimpse behind the curtains of C4 Off the Rails. Now, for those of you who've been supporting the show for a long time, they know and you know that C4 Off the Rails is where Anna and I, and in the past, previous hosts, we riffed. We talked about everything that generally wasn't even involved with the Vancouver Canucks, all topics. In fact, sometimes kind of risque, although let's be honest, risque with me is like, not all that. It's more like, PG-13. But the point is if you went to buymeacoffee.com/C4podcast, buy me a coffee, or as Anna like to call it, buy me a pint, you could subscribe on a monthly or annual basis and get exclusive access to the episode that you're going to hear next. Now, this episode was actually released a month ago, but every week that we publish a show, we also include an episode of C4 Off the Rails. It's approximately 15-20 minutes long, so you're getting some bonus time for a real, valuable contribution to Anna and I, and, ultimately help us to keep the lights on and pay for hosting and the podcast and all that jazz. But this episode of C4 Off the Rails, again, published about a month ago, I asked Anna a very important question. Why did she join C4? Now, this is, as a topic goes, something that maybe some of you have already heard, and maybe were, kind of curious as to, why she would join a random guy named Chris. But we're going to get into that, and it is, a good indication as to what you would expect. And again, if you support us on a monthly basis for $5 a month, or alternatively, on an annual for a discounting, it's like $50 for the entirety of the year. You'll get access to that episode, but every subsequent episode that's recorded. So if there's an episode of the main show, there's an episode of C4 Off the Rails. So sit back, relax, enjoy what's coming next, and Anna and I will be back next week with a regularly scheduled episode of C4. So again, C4 Off the Rails, brought to you by the C4 Canucks Hockey Podcast. And for those that want to support it, go to buymeacoffee.com/C4 podcast.
This is the new era. This is the new band. And we're unbreakable.
Oh, God, that show has really gone off the rails.
Hey, it's me. Anna's here. C4 Off the Rails. And this is like the third episode in a row you've got access to. The last two were like way late.
I wonder if
this one's more timely.
Listening just like 3 in a row.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to publish. Like this one is going to come out obviously after the two that are not yet out. This one being, the Canucks playoffs didn't exist. They're on the golf course or on the lake or wherever. When we last recorded a C4 OTR, there was still some hockey to be played. Mm-hmm. So, figure out the timeline accordingly. But I did have a question for you, Anna.
Go off.
Why did you say yes when I asked you to podcast with me?
Good question. My question right back at you would be, did you?
So I was the one who approached you. So I can...
No, I know that it was Clay leaving that started it out, but...
Well, so actually... Actually... I had kicked off the conversation at the time with Matt and Clay, and I wonder if Adam was still sort of around, but not then, like... And, it's...
And if you
Adam
were like a
new
ish listener to C4, you'd be like, did
Adam
really
Who's
exist?
Matt? Who's Clay? Yeah. I had suggested, because we really enjoyed the few times the four of us got together, and I had said, I think having that fourth voice is helpful. Like I felt that as the podcast were to grow, the sort of multiple views and perspectives made for a much better conversation. And I had, said, hey, should we consider this? And yes. And I'm like, I had actually suggested two names, yours and Steph Pagani.
Pags.
I
I
had
was
said,
thinking about Pagani actually yesterday or whenever.
okay.
The other day, anyway, because there's a player on Tucson Roadrunners called Pagansky. Haven't spoken to Pags in a little while.
And it's Stephanie, not Steph. Sorry. I should.
Yeah, that's
I'm,
true. She
not that
doesn't.
she can hear this because she doesn't get access to C4OTR, but she would chastise me to
Yeah, for
the
sure.
end of days.
I
I
should
apologize
reconnect
to you,
with
Stephanie.
her. Pags, she sent me Trader Joe's stuff during the pandemic when we couldn't go over the border. Not that we're
Going over the border.
going
anymore?
over the border now, but you
Yeah.
know, we could
Yeah.
technically.
So I had said I had suggested the two of you, and at the time it was more in sort of the guest capacity, so that we'd have four voices, and then you had sort of started joining us, and then Clay had sort of announced like, "Hey, yeah, I'm leaving," and then I'm like, "Well, hey, we've got Anna. I think we've got some good, chemistry. There's some good vibes, and
Yeah.
let's run with this." And this then goes back to my initial question moments ago. Why did you say yes?
I mean, I wish I had a good answer. Like, I just really I do remember you texting me and I think you invited me to a Whitecaps game, and then we had drinks before, or something like that, and then you mentioned it, something like that.
I mean, I was floating. I was working my magic.
Yeah, I mean, it does sound kind of weird when I put it like that, but
I made the moves.
yeah. But I
have no game. Let's be honest. The fact
Yeah.
you said yes is.
I think I
strange.
had fun with you guys when we recorded.
In the old
I
NW
think
studio.
was I on twice as a guest?
I want to say, yeah, like 2 times. Like it was a handful of times, and it worked out. Like the timing was sort of Clay had said he was leaving, and Adam was mythical.
Yeah. And I did think we had good vibes, and I also liked that we had different vibes. If you ever spent any time with Matt and I when we were together, we're kind of like little, he's my annoying little cousin, even though I think he's older than me, but he is just yeah, we had that kind of almost cousin / sibling vibe, and we'd fight a lot.
I was dad.
Yeah, but I think the discussion kind of balanced out well, so I kind of liked the different styles. And then there was Adam, who actually, listeners, if you have listened to this week's show, you will know that we had an F word. That comes from Adam.
Mm-hmm.
Because his middle name is F.
F
stands for Francis. So it used to be an Adam rant, and that was his vibe whenever he was on. That he was, I would say, on the cynical side. I'm pretty cynical as it goes, but yeah, Adam was a different level, I'd say.
There was a time where it was the 4 of us, you, Adam, Matt, and I consistently, and we had, I think, some of our best shows because of how, I would say that you and I have very similar sort of views. And I don't know, I can't play I'm not done that it's a role, not that Matt played a role, but I can't be Matt.
Yeah.
I can't be Adam.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel that when we had the 4 of us, we had some really good conversations. We were
yes.
4 mates, exactly what this podcast was to be about.
It's meant
talking
to be.
hockey at a bar type thing. That was not to say that you and I don't have that. It's just, again,
it's different.
It's different.
And there's things that I would go back and change for sure. Obviously, I feel like I could speak candidly, but we've kind of said this on the main show. We've had issues with our 2 sort of partners over the years, and one thing that I do not look back on with fondness is the betting spots. So, and that's that's not really to do with the content of the podcast at the time, but that's something that now I'm more informed, I guess, and now I've seen how betting has overtaken sports in this country. Yeah, that's one thing from that era that I definitely do not like looking back on, but yeah, we had some good conversation. I also do not look back on with fondness the hot box.
Oh, okay. So for those listeners who don't know what the hot box is, first of all, nothing untoward or bad or anything like that. When Anna joined the show, we were recording in the CKNW studios.
Those were the days.
Matt worked for CKNW, and this is going way back.
And we were a CKNW podcast.
For a while, yeah. Like he had floated the idea, hey, I've got this hockey podcast. NW had like completely like, or not at that point hadn't completely pulled out of sports, but they drastically reduced their sports coverage, and the powers that be had said sure, and we had access to the studio. I didn't realize that at some point that had changed, and then our access to the studio was more on the down low until somehow it was not on the down low, and we were told no more. We recorded, or we tried to record one virtually. This is pre-pandemic. Did not go well, and the technology at the time wasn't all that good for that type of thing. And we needed to find a solution. And the Vancouver Public Library main branch had a bunch of sort of quote unquote studio space. Yeah. I think it was called the Inspiration Lab. And essentially, if you had a Vancouver Public Library card and you lived in the city of Vancouver, because that was the other big caveat, we could book space and we would book these sort of boxes. Now, the thing about the boxes, we called the hot box, they were put into the library after the library had been constructed. They were quite literally not ventilated.
Yeah, 100%.
They were soundproof. And so if you've never been in a soundproof room, if there is no ventilation, it is well insulated.
Yeah. And
insulated by, like, there were times where if one of us just stripped off all our clothing, it wouldn't have actually been a bad thing, except for the fact that it was like big glass windows and we'd be giving everyone a show.
And also, so you could book these spaces 2 weeks in advance, but if we wanted, we ideally wanted the big hot box because
sometimes we got the small one.
Yeah, because there was the big, the medium, and the small hot box. That was cozy. That was where our HR policy came from, honestly.
I think we only did one episode in the small one with 3 of us.
Yeah, which was
one too many.
And I think that was even
one too many.
Just us recording a section because we had a large interview that took up most of the podcast, and it was still crazy. Although, so I will, not to throw shade, but friend of the show, Chris Faber, who has been on the show a few times, he was not a fan of the hotbox, it's safe to say.
No, I mean...
No one was, but yeah. And you can't put fans on, so we would usually have a fan on until we hit record.
Yeah, and then...
But yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I don't... Honest, Anna, if you and I had been wearing, like, bathing suits, that may not have been sufficient to deal with the heat in those damn things.
It was... I'm a warm person anyway. Like, I'm warm right now.
Oh, I run hot.
Yeah, I run hot, and it was just like...
Ugh. Unbearable. So why'd you say yes to joining C4? Like, some strange man invites you to a Whitecaps game, talks to you about joining a podcast.
I mean,
fast forward to where we are now. It's you and I, and we record, and I think we work well together. But...
I mean, yeah. Like, obviously, I don't think we were, like, close friends at the time, and I would say more acquaintances than friends, but, like, I think I love talking. I don't love the sound of my own voice, but I love talking. Like, I had been on Game Time Decision.
Now, did you join 2 random dudes you'd never met from Game Time Decision in a hotel room after they had imbibed in many, many brewskis?
No.
I know a Pagani that has.
Yeah, and now I'm wondering if I went on Game Time Decision in the, like, community room of someone's apartment complex with 2 men I never met. But I think I must have met Paris and Beecher before that. But literally,
and this isn't sort of another story, like, Ryan Beach, Mike Paris.
Ryan Beach now working for the Vancouver Canucks, but at the time he was...
Great guys.
Yeah.
Like great guys. Like they
Yeah.
are two of the nicest guys that are out there. And I mean,
And
I
Mike
sort of
Paris
think,
has been on the show, like, not too distant past, so.
no, and I'm sort of making light of this, but like the story that I'm describing is like Stephanie Pagani. She met them when they had gone on the road. They'd gone down to watch a Vancouver Canucks game. They had enjoyed
Anaheim,
themselves.
yeah.
And then she comes to their hotel room, and I'm like, "You've never met these guys before." Like, I mean, I as a guy, I am concerned for you, even though these are two good guys, right?
I know,
Like,
it is a strange decision. Because at least I went with Pags to record the show, even though we did just get in Mike Paris's
when
car.
I was on Game Time Decision, I took Clay,
Yeah,
or
nothing
Clay
bad.
took me.
Mad.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's funny. Anyway, like, that was I had enjoyed my experience there. I thought I had a point of view to offer that was quite different. Like, I'd listened to C4 for a long time, and I listened to it whilst I was in the UK. And I thought, yeah, like, I agree with a lot of what these guys are saying, but also I have different opinions sometimes, especially as someone who has not grown up in Canada, not grown up with the sport, like, had grown up with, like, predominantly football, and football fandom in the UK, which I do think is quite different, even if you are a Premier League fan here. It's like, yeah. So I do think I had that alternate perspective, I think, to offer. But yeah, and I guess it was just like, that sounds fun.
Cool. Well, I want to make it clear. I'm glad you said yes. Like,
Thanks.
I mean, it's not like, man, I really wish I didn't ask her this 7 years
know,
ago
you're
or whatever it was.
stuck
now.
with me.
Was it longer? When was it? I'm trying to
This is
think.
a great question.
I'd have to go back in the archive and look, like, because it was
Think
quite a bit before the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
So
5 years now.
Did I start the 2017 season or 2018?
don't know.
I started one of those seasons because I know I was in film school in 2016 and I was not on the podcast
Yeah,
then.
I'd have to look back. It's
I
because
think it might be 20. Actually, no. I think it might be 2018. But
2018. Okay, well, because like as I'm sort of thinking here and doing the math, you might be number 2 in tenure.
oh, really?
Because Clay, how long was Clay on before
Well,
he was done after you sort of joined, or was he already gone?
he was gone before.
So
I
then
joined.
you're probably, because if we're 7 years, the show's been around since what, 2013, I want to say.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I guess I am.
I mean, congratulations. I'd
Thanks.
give you a plaque if I was aware of this before we were having this conversation.
I would like a plaque. Plaques
I mean,
are good.
You know what? Maybe I should maybe walk that back a bit. I have to do the math on Matt, but because Matt wasn't here from the beginning,
Right.
but he did join sort of within, I want to say, the first year.
Yeah, so maybe
Yeah,
Matt.
so-
Okay.
But I mean, it wouldn't be by much. So yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to pull up something because I wrote down a list of basically opportunities / cool things that I have done because,
How many of them are hung out with Chris? There's probably
well,
must be
no,
down there
100%,
a
like,
dozen times.
that's obviously very cool, but just because, like, I talk about hockey sometimes, like, I've been on CBC radio, like, I've got invited to, like, Canucks games in different, like, suites, and I've gotten to do just some very cool stuff in and around just, like, that aren't actually, like, aren't just the podcast, but because of the podcast. Like, meeting just so many cool people. Like, we've interviewed Frank Corrado. Like, I mean, I could just stop there and just say that's one of the coolest experiences of my life, and I did that because I'm on the podcast. Like, we've met this whole wider community of people, like, that I wouldn't have met, and that's listeners, that's fellow podcasters, and that's other reporters, and yeah, some of whom are like friends of mine now, and that's crazy. But I have this kind of whole other world, like when I go to work or play netball, and people sort of say, oh, like what other interests you have, what other things you do in your spare time, and you're just like, and I say, oh, well, I'm on the longest running Canucks podcast, and that's, yeah, very surprising to most people, I would say.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about like this question recently, and I don't even know why it sort of came to mind, but it sort of reinforces that sometimes we make decisions in the moment, or not to suggest it was like fleeting, like you're like, oh yeah, I'll just say yes to some guy, but you make these decisions, and when you look back, you're like, wow, look at how that one decision sort of grew into that opportunity, or connected this to all these other areas that I might not have occurred. So
yeah, not to mention, and it's maybe uncouth to mention this, but not that we get a lot of free stuff, but once someone sent us a hockey jersey, and that was pretty cool.
Where is that jersey?
Matt still has it, which he promises he will return it to me.
Have you asked him recently about it?
I haven't asked him in the last
it's probably
year
framed
or so.
on his wall.
But yes, we have a Vacchio Lakers jersey, which, yeah, actually, I'm wearing in my social media profile picture. So that is proof that I once had it in my possession. I think I had it for like the first 6 months or so, and then I gave it to Matt to sort of have his turn with it. And he's yet to give it back. Even though that belongs to
see what he says. The podcast, yeah.
It does not belong to him.
Cool. Well, that was an episode.
That was
the
a fun
third
little
of three in a row.
Memory lane.
Yeah, and I want to let our supporters know that I have considered that making one of these 3 episodes public after a spell, just to open up the realm of what C4OTR is, kind of like marketing promo type thing. We have one show that we've made available to everyone, but yeah, I think one of these 3 I might open the door. You'll get to listen to it first, and it won't be like published publicly like within seconds or days or hours. Might be days.
But yeah, this might be a nice little tidbit for people that, especially if they haven't listened since the beginning, or the beginning of my time, or even the beginning of this season. So there you go.
Yeah, cool. We out.